Solid Signal podcast for the week of July 13th, 2015, and as usual, I have had way too much caffeine before recording this podcast. So, get ready for me to talk extremely fast, and let's all have a great old time. You know, there's this movie, Mean Girls. Now, it's from about 10 years ago, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't seen it. I myself had only seen it about 2 years ago because I really wasn't aware that it was a real classic, and it was created by Tina Fey, who is to be one of the most brilliant comedic minds of our time. And I really didn't watch it because, I'm much older than high school age, and I really wasn't interested in what a whole bunch of cheerleaders had to say about society. But it turns out it's about a whole lot more than that. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because there's this point where one character says to another character who's trying to use the word fetch to make something sound cool. Oh, that's so fetch. She says, stop trying to make fetch happen. Fetch is not going to happen. Why do I care? Why am I even taking you down this road? That's what I feel like I want to say to the people with 4K television. Stop trying to make 4K happen. 4K is not going to happen. That's a little bit harsh. But the truth of the matter is that 4K is not going to happen the way that perhaps we think that it could happen, the way that we think it should happen. And I've written a couple of posts and I'm recording this podcast about 4K because I want to help you folks set reasonable expectations for what you're going to get when 4K does finally come. So first, to explain if you have not heard of it, 4K is a new television standard with 4 times the quality of traditional high-definition television, which sounds great, I gotta tell you. But unfortunately, the way that 4K is being implemented now is just not desirable, and it's not going to get any better for a long time. Saying that something is in 4K is just kind of like saying that I like girls with red hair. There's an awful lot more to girls than just their hair color. Personality, for one. There's a whole bunch of things that you could like or dislike about a person regardless of their hair color. And just saying, oh, I want 4K, it's not taking into account all of the possible things that indicate what the true quality of a broadcast is. Now, I don't want to get heavily technical, but the point is that 4K could end up looking just as bad as DVD and still be 4K. There's just so much more to it. And that is what everybody seems to be forgetting in this rush to get 4K content out there. There's a rush, I gotta tell you, because there's all these 4K televisions and there's no 4K content. The 4K television business is stalling quickly because there's just no reason to buy that 4K television. So you see, like I said, there's not a lot of 4K content out there. Netflix has a little bit of it, and there's some that you can download for some of your devices. DirecTV has probably the best looking 4K content out there because it's not delivered in real time. Netflix is delivered in real time, and that's what kind of limits its quality. And now we get word that LG is trying to do 4K over-the-air broadcasting in the same size channels that you'll find with just regular HD TV broadcasting, which was designed for standard definition. That's an awful lot of information to try to shove into that tiny little space. The only problem is that once we get into the idea of broadcasting, then you get the government involved. And once the government is involved, well, it could be another dozen years before you see anything happen to 4K. In the meantime, that kind of puts a chilling on the rest of the 4K industry because everybody's going to be waiting to see if their TV is going to be obsolete in 3 years. A lot of us went through that with high definition and we don't want to go through it again. I certainly do understand that. And the bottom line is most people still can't tell the difference between DVD and high definition, so why is it that they really want to get into 4K? Well, the truth is most of them don't. This is not as dire of a situation as it was when we were talking about 3D. 3D was a total flop, and why? Because it came right down to it. Nobody wanted to wear those stupid-looking glasses that gave everybody a headache, and 3D couldn't have disappeared faster this year. 4K will be here to stay, and the real reason 4K is here to stay is because when you get those big panels, 60 to 80-inch panels, it's actually cheaper to make a 4K television than it is to make a high-definition television in that size. It doesn't seem to make sense, but there's a whole lot of good reasons for it. So 4K is going to stay because the price is going to drop down to where it needs to be. As a matter of fact, I've already seen some 4K televisions down in the $600 to $900 range. And as televisions go, considering that you can't actually get any content for them, they're not that bad. Now, I admit I'm being a little harsh because DirecTV does have some 4K content, as I said, and it is available on a lot of 4K televisions. And not only that, it's worth saying that Dish did show a 4K Joey at the Consumer Electronics Show, so it's on the radar for them. It's just a matter of time before it happens. And so, yes, there will be some 4K, but it's going to be probably a year before that all starts to settle out. And unfortunately, that may be just too long for some 4K manufacturers who just don't want to wait, who will take perhaps a break before producing more 4K stuff. It will keep prices of high definition TVs up. It's not a good deal. So, folks, we're in a bad spot when it comes to 4K. There's just no way to get around that right now. Next year, year after, it's going to seem a lot better, but this year is probably the worst year for 4K, and that means that there are deals out there. Well, there will be anyway. The good news is, take a look 6 to 9 months down the road. Christmas time should be a great time to buy a 4K television if you're willing to accept the fact that you're just going to be watching HD anyway.